The Long War for the Temple, Rome, Persia, and the Broken Desert. Elias Winter, April 2025. There are battles so ancient that the dust they raised has never truly settled. Jerusalem is one of them. Al-Aqsa is not a building, it is a wound. If you listen closely enough, you can still hear the iron-shod boots of Rome, the silk banners of Persia, the whispered prayers of tribes who never thought their cries would shape the world. And if you look closely enough, you will see that the war has never ended. It has only changed its flags, its language, its myth. We are living still in the ruins of a war between desert and city, between sword and scroll, between memory and forgetting. And somewhere beneath it all, Persia waits, and Rome watches, and Jerusalem bleeds. 1. The Lightning Rise: How Islam Stormed a Dying World. When Muhammad died in 632, Arabia was still a dust bowl of feuding tribes, forgotten by empires, dismissed by historians. It was not a nation. It was a fractured chorus of blood feuds, honor killings, hunger, and raiding. And then something impossible happened. Within 5 years, Muslim armies stood before the gates of Jerusalem. Within 20 years, they shattered Persia, broke Byzantium's back, and redrew the map of the world. How? Not by numbers, not by iron, but by fire. Islam poured molten unity into a people who had known only fracture. It told the tribes they were brothers under one God. It taught that the battle was no longer against each other, but against disbelief, injustice, chaos. It turned raiders into soldiers, soldiers into martyrs, and martyrs into legends. And it arrived not when the empires were strong, but when they were gasping. The Byzantines had just clawed their way out of a suicidal war with Persia. Their fields were burned, their treasuries drained, their armies weary. The Persians were worse, leaderless, betrayed from within, spiritually hollowed out. Islam did not so much conquer them as inherit their ruins. 2. The weakness of the giants: Byzantium and Persia in collapse. Byzantium, ruled by Emperor Heraclius, was a shell of itself. It still wore the purple of Rome, but it ruled over a people who no longer believed. Sectarian hatred tore the Christian provinces apart. Orthodox against Monophysite, Arab Christian against Greek Christian. Jerusalem fell not because it was weak, but because it was abandoned internally long before a Muslim sword touched its stones. And Persia had already died inside. The great king Khosrow II had fallen into madness. His successors murdered each other in palace coups so rapid that no year passed without new blood on the throne. By the time Muslim armies crossed the Euphrates, Persia was a battlefield without a general, a throne without a spine. The final battles, Qadisiyah, Nahavand, were not contests between equal forces. They were mercy killings. The Persians fought bravely, but they fought for a corpse. 3. The memory of Mithras: Rome, Persia, and the deep myth they shared. But if you think these were simply political collapses, you have not gone deep enough. The Byzantines and the Persians had fought each other, but they had been cousins long before they became enemies. Both were heirs to the Indo-European soul, that ancient migration of spirit from the steppes, carrying sky gods, sacred oaths, cosmic kingship. You see it in Mithras, the god of contracts, of loyalty sealed in blood. In Persia, Mithra was the guardian of oaths. In Rome, he became the center of secret cults, worshipped by soldiers beneath the earth, beside flowing water, whispering vows in the darkness. When Christianity rose in Rome, it did not so much reject Mithras as absorb his structure, a savior born near the winter solstice, a cosmic battle between light and darkness, a ritual of death and rebirth, cleansed by water. The early churches of Europe were often built on top of Mithraic temples, just as the Christian empire was built on top of the bones of Rome. And so the battle between Byzantium and Persia was, beneath the armor and theology, a civil war of mythic siblings. Islam entered that world not to inherit its myths, but to burn them clean. 4. Islam and Judaism, the last children of the desert. Where Christianity and Zoroastrianism dreamed in cosmic battles and mediators, Islam and Judaism stood together, fierce and clear. One God, no sons, no rivals, no middlemen. Judaism had taught it in the wilderness. Islam restored it in the furnace of Arabia. The early Muslims prayed toward Jerusalem. Muhammad fasted with the Jews on the Day of Atonement. He saw himself not as a break, but as a completion, the last stone set upon the foundation laid by Abraham, Moses, and all the prophets. Even when the Jewish tribes of Medina rejected him and conflict hardened into blood, the architecture of Islam remained deeply, fiercely Semitic, a religion of law, of revelation, of submission not to kings or priests, but to God alone. 5. The Persian rebirth. How the defeated became the soul of the victor. And yet Persia did not disappear. It bent. It bled. It lost the sword, but it won the pen. Persian scholars, poets, mystics, and viziers rebuilt the Islamic world in their own image. The Abbasid Caliphate, Baghdad's golden age, was Persian at its core. Sufism sang in Persian tones. Shia Islam took root in Persian soil, blossoming into a theology of mourning, of lost justice, of the eternal betrayal of the righteous, a memory very Persian in its ache. If Rome tried to reclaim Jerusalem through empire, Persia reclaimed Islam itself through spirit. This too was a kind of revenge, but a quiet, patient one. 6. Al-Aqsa, the unhealed wound. And so we return to Jerusalem, to the Al-Aqsa Mosque, built on the platform where Rome once crowned its emperors, where Jewish priests once burned their offerings, where crusaders once sharpened their swords. Today, it is the flashpoint of a world that never healed. The British Empire, heir of Rome's maritime ambition, staked its claim to Palestine after the Ottoman fall. America, heir to British power, now plays Rome's ancient game, funding, dictating, manipulating from afar. The Palestinian cries rise into a sky already thick with ancient prayers and older fears, a sky that has carried too many unanswered laments. The Israeli walls climb higher each year, fortress upon fortress, built not only of stone, but of memories, memories of exile, of slaughter, of a people who have never forgotten what it means to be hunted. And now fear answers fear, and wound answers wound, as if the old wars were not ended but only inherited. Al-Aqsa stands at the crossroads of these memories, bruised and trembling, caught between empires that pretend to have forgotten and tribes that never could. And somewhere, the taste of the Crusades still lingers. Somewhere, the memory of Mithras still flickers beneath the cathedrals of Europe. Somewhere, Persia watches, bruised but unbroken, as the airs of the desert and the city tear at each other once more. 7. Conclusion. The Long War. This is not a battle of politics. It is a battle of memory. It is a war between empires that no longer exist and dreams that refuse to die. Rome never left Jerusalem. Persia never surrendered to Arabia. The Crusader never left the Holy Land. The caravan of the Prophet never stopped walking. And the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the wounded house, still stands. Not as a trophy, as a mirror, showing us that the ancient wars have only changed their names, showing us that the temple is not merely stone, it is the human heart, broken by empire, longing for God. Elias Winter, author of Language Matters.